All right, so here we go. This is a little bit different than what we've done before. Just wanted to show you how I make fermented hot sauce. Now, hot sauce, there's 5 million varieties, and some are hot and some are not, and some are this and some are that. But you can make your own delicious hot sauce with hardly any work with what you've grown, and this is a super easy and super delicious way of making hot sauce. Now, keep in mind when you're talking about hot sauce, heat is the easiest thing to get. If you just purely want hot, you could go buy a bottle of capsicum and put a couple of drops in anything and have it hot. Flavor is not. And that's why I don't like a lot of bottled hot sauces and the things that you buy, because they put this emphasis on heat. Oh, I'm going to burn them up and I'm going to do this, but there's no flavor to it. So what I always like is some hot and a ton of flavor in it as well. So what I want to show you here is, these are sweet peppers. I've already cut up most of them, but I wanted to show you how I do this, so I kept a couple. This is actually a variety of a bullnose, which is a sweet pepper. Now you'll notice on all these, I kind of take them out of the, I take the seeds out as much as possible, and then I just rough chop these. And so I've got in my jar here, which is getting pretty full, I've got some sweet banana peppers, some hot bananas, some jalapenos, and then I've got a couple of little other hot peppers. I don't know the variety on that. I just shot that thing with those seeds in it right across the room. The smaller you cut these, the more flavor you're going to get out of this. I just kind of rough chop them, but if you want to spend the time, you can chop these really small and even get more flavor. Now the thing here is, you'll notice I've got my gloves on. I'm not working with any super hot peppers here. These are just jalapenos and some hot bananas, but still hot enough that you don't want to get this all over your skin and then have to try and get it off later on. So I do have some gloves on here. So I'm just showing you here how I'm just kind of rough chopping these and I'm putting them down in my jar. This is the little hot pepper. I don't know the variety on this guy, but do you have to take the seeds out? No, I do, because when I blend this up, I don't like the seeds in there because they tend not to blend up. So I try and get as many as I can out at this stage. You could also just sieve this. You could just leave them all in there and then just sieve it at the end and have what you wanted and not have to worry about it. Now I do like to put some garlic in here. I've got some garlic cloves here somewhere. I'll probably put a couple in there just to say I did. You don't really add your flavorings other than your peppers and maybe a little garlic at this point. I can go ahead and take these gloves off. I've got the peppers done where I've showed you, so I can use that knife because I just took my gloves off. But again, most of your flavors, and I'll show you that in just a minute, if you want to add flavors to this, purely like, let's say cilantro or pesto or all these different things that you could add for flavor, you add those at the end when you're blending it, not necessarily now. That's a couple. Let me see if I got another one or two here. I could have had this part ready, but forgot all about the garlic. I always like to have a little bit of garlic in mine, even if it's not purely like, say, what would be considered a garlic hot sauce. It just adds a little flavor. And, you know, like we talk about in all the videos that Sarah and I do, you always want to try and get as much flavor as you can get for the amount of time you're spending in it. Now this is going to go pretty fast, but I still want as much flavor as I can get out of it. So I'm just crushing this garlic up. It's only because that makes it easier for me to peel. It doesn't have to be enclosed. It doesn't have to be chopped up. It doesn't have to be anything. It's just whatever's easiest. Now, I would not use the garlic in a jar, only because this is a fermented sauce and that has preservatives in it. So you kind of have a little bit of a mismatch if you do that. Wash my hands there a little bit. Because you're trying to get this to ferment, not sit around and not ferment. So, all right, so I've got that. And you can see I've got my peppers in my jar here. I've got 2 cups of water. This is not cold water, but it's not hot. It's just lukewarm temperature. tap water. Then I've got 1.5 teaspoons of salt per cup. So I've got 3 teaspoons of salt, and I'm just gonna put this in here. And I wanna get it as much dissolved as I can. That's why I use that little bit warmer water. If I use straight cold from the tap, sometimes it tends to be a little bit hard to get that dissolved. Not that that's a ton of salt, but it is enough that it tends to be a little bit hard. All right, so I got my salt in my water. I'm gonna start pouring this in. Probably gonna pour it all over everything, except for what I'm trying to pour it in. You want to be able to cover your vegetables. Boy, I'm just making a mess of that. I don't know if any of that made it in there. A little of it did. Not very much. I really need to do this in something better. Let me transfer it to something else here. All right, this is gonna be easier. So try and get your peppers covered. And of course now I don't have enough water, but because it's all there on the cutting board. But basically at that point you have this, you have your water in there. I have a little weight here. It's one of these glass weights. You put on that, and then this easy fermenter lid is the easiest way to do it. You put this on there, you take the pump, you pump out the air, and then you just let it sit. And that is all you have to do for this sauce. Now again, I've got to make up some more water and salt, which you don't want to see. So you can just do that with a jar. Just make sure you vent the lid. That way it has a chance, because it is going to be fermented. So it is going to be producing bubbles, and you want those bubbles to be able to get out. So you're going to have to either vent the jar every now and then, once a day, twice a day, something like that, come back with it. But you do that for 7 days. You can do it for more than that if you want, but I did it for 7 days. When you do that, you get this. So if you can see that there, you see how that water's gotten cloudy. And it has the distinct aroma of pickles, of like pepper pickles. So that's exactly what you want. So you want to come in there and you want to scoop out these peppers. This is my blender cup. You can use a regular blender, you could use food processor, you can use whatever you want. Now you'll notice these peppers kept a lot of their color, which I really like because it adds a really nice color to the finished product. So I'm getting all these out of here. And notice I'm not just dumping that liquid out. I need that fermenting liquid here in just a minute. So anyway, so I'm doing this the uber hard way. But now is the time. So if you're gonna add flavors, now would be the time. Smoked paprika, a little salt, a little pepper, things of that nature. I will add a little salt into this. Yeah, probably a teaspoon. If you wanted to add pepper, if you wanted to add cilantro, if you wanted to add smoked paprika, if you wanted to add any of those things, this would be the time to do it. Get something else out of here to get all these. I went around this the hardest way possible. I do have a couple of garlic cloves that were in that, so they're going in here too. And now, what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna put the lid on this, and then I'm gonna blend it. But I want to give you a little shell of flavor here. So I haven't even tried this, but I know it's good because I smelled it just a minute ago. I sort of gave it a little try. Yeah, be careful adding more salt to it because this liquid's already really salty. So I added about a teaspoon. I'll still be fine. Be careful willy-nilly adding salt to it. What you've got now is this brine that is salty and pickled and peppered. So not super hot because again, it was a very similar set of peppers that I used in this. This was hot bananas, jalapenos, and sweet peppers. It's honestly delicious. So what I've got is some white vinegar. This is a cup. I'm not gonna add it all right now. I'm probably gonna do about half. That way I don't over vinegar this. And then I'm gonna come in here, so I know that's about there. I'm gonna give it a little bit of this juice. That'd be a half a cup as well. I want about a half a cup and a half a cup. Now, this may not be liquidy enough, so I'm gonna blend this up, and I'm gonna blend it super fine so I don't have to sieve it. And then I'll see if it needs little more liquid, I'll add a little more vinegar and a little more of the juice. But that's how you make a fermented hot sauce, and this is gonna be ready to eat. It's 1 week in, and you can see it, and it's gonna be delicious because that brine is absolutely delicious. The other one will take another week. I'll fill it all the way up here in just a minute. But anyway, it'll take a week, and I'll do the same process. Use any peppers you want, peppers that you've grown, that you buy, whatever, however hot you want it. Great tasting, full of flavor, and still has some heat.